Hello, singers, and thank you, Catherine, for having me with you today. My name is Sharen Camille, and I am a performer and a director, and I am the founder and director of the Camille Coloratura Awards, which is a classical voice competition dedicated to the art of coloratura. So Catherine asked me if I would speak to you all a little bit about auditioning, how you feel about it, things that you can do to maybe help you have the best audition that you can possibly have. And so let me start by just sort of saying, let's reframe that. Rather than thinking about it as an audition, think about it as your opportunity for a performance. And maybe it's just a 5-minute performance or a 2-minute performance or a 10-minute performance. Maybe it's only for an audience of one. Hopefully it's for an audience of a few more than that, but you never know. And really take away that feeling of, oh, I'm auditioning. It's an opportunity for you to perform, for you to do what you love to do, for what you've been training to do for all of these many, many years. And see if that can help sort of just put that in a slightly different perspective for yourself, so that rather than you being in a position that's not in control, you absolutely are. This is your performance that you are presenting to someone else. She asked me, what are the adjudicators really looking for? And I would say that's the same thing that any of us as audience members are looking for, and that's something engaging. We want to watch and listen and be transported, take us on a journey somewhere. And again, that goes back to the more that you can create that little mini performance, even if it's just in your living room or in a studio or in front of a green screen, if you can imagine yourself in that environment and set it up for all the rest of us so that we see that beautiful castle, that living room, that forest, whatever it is. If you believe that you're there, then we in the audience are going to suspend our disbelief and we're going to be there with you. A couple of mistakes that I see in videos, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of videos because we do a video pre-screen for our competition. And there are definitely a couple of things. One is that people have a tendency to glaze over, right? So you're in the middle of the song and you're emoting, and then I can just kind of see the eyes go a little bit dead. Maybe it's before a high note, maybe it's before a challenging run, maybe it's just a time where you get to sort of take a breath and the accompaniment is doing something, but it's like there's a performance and then it sort of stops. In the same way that if you've ever been with another performer, seen a performance where when the person isn't speaking, they sort of wait for their turn to act again. So that entire time, especially on camera like this, that entire time we need to know that you have thoughts, that you have ideas, that there's something going on. As soon as that glaze happens, then I'm instantly taken out. My suspension of disbelief has just disappeared. Now I'm with you in a living room and I'm not engaged. I'm not wrapped up in the story that you're trying to tell me. The other thing is acting like you're acting, right? So people act really sad and tragic, or they act really happy, or they act really angry. Don't act angry, get angry. Don't act sad, feel sad. And the more that you can do that, so that it's not just artificially putting on some sort of facial expression, but it's you experiencing what that is. There's a wonderful exercise that I recently saw somebody post where they had been challenged, and this was more for just plain actors. They were challenged to just with their eyes go through a series of different emotions. And so she had this 1-minute video where she got happy, she got joyful, she got angry, she got vengeful, she got sad, she got scared. And it was just her thoughts and her eyes that were sort of changing. And it was very, very powerful. And I liken that to the same way that when we study voice, I think most of us record our voice lessons, right? Because we hear our voices differently inside than what somebody on the outside is hearing. So we need to record ourselves so that we can get that sense of, oh yeah, I understand what my teacher was talking about there. I understand what my coach was talking about there. Maybe I didn't hear it in the moment, but when I go back and I listen to it, I can identify that, and now I know what that muscle memory feeling is going to be, or what it's going to sound like to me, even though it sounds wonderful out there, maybe inside my head it didn't sound so great. And arguably that's true of acting as well, right? There can be times where I'm emoting my heart out, but what's coming across isn't what I think is coming across. And I'll speak personally. I had casting directors tell me that I was being too musical theater. This is when I was doing some film and TV work, that I was being too musical theater. And I thought, well, that's not my musical theater. That's just me. I emote. And then I watched my wedding video and I went, oh my gosh, I look so over the top. And it was way too much. It was too much for the camera. And after that, I understood what people were talking about, right? So even though I was feeling all of the emotions and I was very honest in what I was feeling and saying, it was coming across too strong for this medium. And so it's important for you to get familiar with the medium that we're now using for this. It's a different way of presenting yourself than if you were on a theater stage 50 yards, 50 feet away from the people that you're auditioning for, right? Trying to capture that same intensity and energy through the camera without it just feeling just way too splattered and too much. And that leads me to my next point, which is another mistake that I see a lot is sort of unfocused energy. So people are singing and it's as if they're singing to an entire audience, but if you have an aria that is either to a particular person or you're really thinking about a particular person, to have there be too many focal points just feels kind of scattered. Okay, particularly I would argue if your aria is to another person. Find that spot on the wall, and for the camera it can't even be too far. If I put that person over here, it doesn't seem as effective as if I put that person right here. So I don't necessarily want to look directly into the camera, because then that's a completely different effect. There might be times when you choose to do that, and if so, go right ahead. But for the most part, that sense of that intensity that's right here, and maybe you look away for part of it, and in fact what I just did is what you shouldn't do. A lot of us, when we think, we have a tendency to look down. When you're on camera, bring your energy up. This is true when you're on stage too. Try to bring your energy up if you're thinking about something so that it doesn't all come down this way. So if I'm talking to you, and then I need to think about what I want to say next, and then come back to you, as opposed to I'm talking to you, I'm going to think about what I say next, and then I come back to you. Hopefully you can see that you stay with me a little bit more if I keep my energy up and my eyes up than if I bring everything down. Okay, so you just want to really have that energy nice and focused, know exactly who you're talking to, and don't try to just have this sort of generic theatrical performance energy that you're sending out, but that it's really, really specific. A couple of pet peeves of judges that don't really affect your singing. And I wasn't going to get too much into the technical aspects of making a video, because I think there's plenty of people out there doing that. You can see I'm just trying to be very casual right now. This isn't my fancy lighting. It's not my green screen. This is just my living room. But you don't want to have the lighting from behind you. I've definitely gotten videos from people and they were sort of standing in front of a window, and then I can't see anything that's happening on their face. And so it's just not engaging. So make sure that your lighting is at least coming towards you and not coming from behind you. And then again, that just sort of generic acting. The accompaniment is starting and you have several measures before you come in. And so people are sort of there and trying to look like there's something going on, but it just doesn't seem, again, specific. So I challenge you to make sure that you have a really strong internal monologue for what you're thinking, what's going through your mind when you have those moments where maybe you don't actually have specific text to sing. And then obviously when you do have text to sing, make sure you know what you're saying. You know what you're talking about. And because this is your performance, right? Because you might be taking it slightly out of context. Don't feel like you have to be completely literal to what has been established within the production. We've all seen productions where they take a setting that maybe was originally set in 1820 and they make it modern, or they take it back to ancient Greece or something like that. So take your aria and create it in whatever makes sense to you to give you the most powerful, dramatic, interesting performance that you can have. And as you're waiting for that accompaniment and you're getting ready to come in, know why it is you begin to sing. What happened? We have this expression called the moment before. What just happened that makes you need to say what you're going to say right now, at this exact moment in time? Why didn't you say it 5 minutes ago? Why don't you wait 5 more minutes to say it in the future? And there's a literal aspect of it, right? You can look in the opera and you can go, oh, well, this just happened. Okay, that's great. But you still need to know from an acting perspective for yourself, why do I have to sing this now? Why do I have to say this now? And it needs to be a really strong reason. And that's what's going to give you a dynamic and exciting performance. So one thing that I've seen a singer do, and this maybe not, it's not entirely fair because it's Chili Barley, but I just think she takes such delight in her own singing that I can't help but feel delighted as well. And arguably you could talk about, it's a very, very expressive face, right? There's a lot going on, but she seems so sincere and so in the moment that I just love watching her. I love seeing her go on that journey and surprising herself even. And so I think that's always going to be interesting. If you are interested in what you're doing, it is very, very likely that you are going to be interesting to the person who is watching you. So again, thank you for your time. Best of luck with all of your auditions and hopefully your performances and all of the wonderful things coming up for you. My name is Sharen Camille, and I look forward to seeing some of your videos or working with you on the stage one of these days.